Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Ryan Westbrook. Today, I want to talk about something that affects over 800,000 Americans every single year: stroke. And here's what keeps me up at night as a physician. Many of these strokes are preventable. I've spent the last 2 decades studying cardiovascular health, and I can tell you that what we eat plays an absolutely critical role in whether we stay healthy or face a life-altering health crisis. Now, if you're over 60, you've probably heard about stroke risk. Maybe you've had a family member deal with it. Maybe you worry about it yourself. That's actually really healthy. Awareness is the first step. But what I want to share with you today goes beyond just awareness. I want to give you real, practical tools that you can use starting today to significantly reduce your stroke risk. And here's the best part. These aren't complicated. These aren't expensive. These aren't foods you have to force yourself to eat because some trendy diet says you should. These are delicious, accessible foods that have been scientifically shown to protect your brain and heart. Foods that actually taste good. Let me be clear about something up front. I'm not a nutritionist, and I'm not here to tell you to give up all your favorite foods. I'm also not suggesting that eating these foods alone will prevent a stroke. But what I am saying is that the choices we make in our kitchen have measurable, documented effects on our cardiovascular system. And at 60 and beyond, every decision matters. What is a stroke anyway? Before we talk about prevention, let's understand what we're preventing. Because when you understand the mechanism, the food recommendations make a lot more sense. A stroke happens when blood flow to your brain gets blocked. Think of your brain like a high-performance engine. It needs a constant, steady supply of oxygen-rich blood. It's incredibly demanding. Even though your brain is only about 2% of your body's weight, it uses about 20% of your blood supply. That's huge. Now, there are 2 types of stroke. The first is an ischemic stroke, and this accounts for about 85% of all strokes. This happens when a blood clot gets lodged in one of the arteries that supplies your brain. The blood can't get through, and the brain tissue starts dying. This is incredibly serious, and it happens fast. The second type is a hemorrhagic stroke. This is when a blood vessel in your brain actually ruptures and bleeding occurs. The blood accumulates in your brain tissue and causes damage. This is also extremely serious. Now, as we get older, especially after 60, our risk for stroke goes up. Why? Several things happen in our bodies. Our blood vessels become stiffer. We develop plaques in our arteries. Our blood pressure might creep up. We might develop irregular heartbeat. We might develop diabetes. All of these things increase stroke risk. But here's what's important. Many of these risk factors can be influenced by what we eat. And the foods I'm going to tell you about today work in multiple ways to reduce your stroke risk. They help keep your blood vessels flexible. They help prevent blood clots. They help control inflammation. They help manage blood pressure and blood sugar. They strengthen your heart. It's remarkable how much power is in our food choices. Food 1. Fatty fish, especially salmon. Let's start with salmon. I'm talking about wild-caught salmon, or any fatty cold water fish like mackerel, sardines, or herring. This is probably the single most important dietary change you can make if you're concerned about stroke risk. Why? It's all about omega-3 fatty acids, specifically 2 of them, EPA and DHA. These are marine omega-3s, and your brain absolutely needs them. In fact, your brain tissue is largely composed of DHA. When you have adequate DHA, your brain cells function better, they communicate better, and they're more resilient. But here's what really matters for stroke prevention. Omega-3s have powerful blood-thinning properties. They help prevent your blood from becoming too sticky and forming dangerous clots. They also reduce inflammation throughout your cardiovascular system. Chronic inflammation is one of the major drivers of cardiovascular disease and stroke risk. When you eat salmon, you're getting about 1,500 to 2,000 milligrams of combined EPA and DHA in a 3-ounce serving. That's significant. Research has consistently shown that people who eat fatty fish at least twice a week have substantially lower stroke risk than those who rarely eat fish. Now, I want to address the mercury concern that some people have. Yes, large predatory fish like shark and swordfish can have high mercury levels. But salmon, particularly wild-caught salmon, the mercury levels are very low. The benefits far outweigh any concerns. How should you eat it? Baked, grilled, or steamed? I wouldn't recommend eating it fried or prepared with heavy sauces that are loaded with sodium or saturated fat. Keep it simple. A piece of salmon with some olive oil, lemon, and herbs is perfect. If you absolutely cannot tolerate fish, you have options. Flax seeds contain ALA, which is an omega-3, though it's not as directly beneficial as the marine versions. Walnuts also contain ALA. But honestly, if you can incorporate fish into your diet, that's your best bet. Food 2. Blueberries and other dark berries. Now, I'm going to tell you something that might sound too good to be true. One of the most powerful stroke prevention foods is also one of the most delicious. Blueberries. Blueberries are absolutely packed with anthocyanins. These are pigments. They're what give blueberries their deep blue color. And anthocyanins are powerful antioxidants. Your body produces free radicals every single day, especially as you age. Free radicals damage your cells. Antioxidants neutralize them. What makes anthocyanins particularly special for stroke prevention is that they have specific beneficial effects on your blood vessels. They help keep them flexible. They help improve blood flow. They reduce inflammation. And they have mild blood-thinning properties. Research has shown that people who regularly consume blueberries have better blood pressure control and better cholesterol profiles. One study found that people who ate the equivalent of about a cup of blueberries daily showed measurable improvements in blood vessel function within just a few weeks. The beautiful thing about blueberries is that you can eat them fresh, frozen, or even dried. Frozen blueberries are actually fantastic because they're frozen at peak ripeness, so they retain all their anthocyanins. You can throw them in yogurt, oatmeal, smoothies, or just eat them plain as a snack. And it's not just blueberries. Blackberries, raspberries, strawberries. All of these dark berries have similar protective effects. If blueberries aren't available where you live, use whatever dark berries you can find. The key is getting those anthocyanins. Food 3. Leafy greens, particularly spinach and kale. Let me tell you about the nitrate content of leafy greens. Specifically dark leafy greens like spinach and kale. This is where the real magic happens for stroke prevention. Nitrates are compounds that your body converts into nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is absolutely crucial for blood vessel health. It causes blood vessels to relax and dilate, which improves blood flow and reduces blood pressure. It prevents blood clots from forming. It reduces inflammation. When you eat a big handful of spinach or kale, you're getting hundreds of milligrams of dietary nitrates. Your body converts these into nitric oxide, and within hours, your blood vessels are functioning better. Here's what's remarkable. Research has shown that people who consume higher amounts of leafy greens have significantly lower stroke risk. One major study found that people who ate just one additional serving of leafy greens per day reduced their stroke risk by about 6%. That might sound small, but multiply that across years and decades, and it becomes massive. Now, there's something important to understand if you're taking blood-thinning medications like warfarin. Vitamin K in leafy greens can interact with these medications. If that's you, you need to discuss leafy green consumption with your doctor. But for most people, leafy greens are absolutely safe and incredibly beneficial. How do you incorporate them? It's easy. Add spinach to smoothies and you don't even taste it. Make a kale salad. Sauté some greens as a side dish. Add them to soups and stews. Food 4. Nuts and seeds, especially almonds and walnuts. I'm going to lump nuts and seeds together because they work through similar mechanisms. They're nutrient-dense powerhouses that have strong research backing their stroke preventive effects. Almonds, walnuts, hazelnuts, pistachios, All of these contain multiple compounds that benefit your cardiovascular system. They have plant-based proteins. They have fiber. They have vitamin E, which is an antioxidant. They have minerals like magnesium and potassium that help regulate blood pressure. But one of the most important components is something called polyphenols. Like the anthocyanins in blueberries, polyphenols are powerful antioxidants that reduce inflammation and improve blood vessel function. Now, I know nuts have calories and fat. Patients often ask me, "Doc, aren't nuts fattening?" The answer is nuanced. Yes, nuts have fat, but it's predominantly healthy unsaturated fat. And when you consume nuts, you actually absorb less of the fat than you'd expect because of how they're structured. Plus, the protein and fiber in nuts help you feel full, so you naturally eat less overall. Research has consistently shown that people who eat nuts regularly have lower cardiovascular disease risk and lower stroke risk. The key is portion control. We're talking about a handful, roughly 1 ounce, most days of the week. Seeds are equally beneficial. Flax seeds, chia seeds, sunflower seeds, pumpkin seeds, all of these have similar protective effects. You can add seeds to salads, smoothies, oatmeal, or yogurt. Food 5. Olive oil. When I talk about olive oil for stroke prevention, I'm specifically talking about extra virgin olive oil. This is where all the beneficial compounds concentrate. Extra virgin olive oil contains polyphenols, the same compounds we discussed in nuts. These polyphenols are anti-inflammatory and have been shown to improve blood vessel function. Olive oil also contains a compound called oleocanthal, which has effects similar to anti-inflammatory medications, but without any of the side effects. Here's something remarkable from the research. People who use olive oil as their primary cooking oil have significantly lower rates of cardiovascular disease and stroke. This has been documented extensively in Mediterranean countries, where olive oil consumption is high. Now, how much olive oil are we talking about? A tablespoon or 2 a day is sufficient. You can use it for cooking, though I prefer using it for finishing dishes or drizzling on salads, because some of the polyphenols can break down with high heat. But even when heated, olive oil retains many of its protective properties. The key is that it should be your primary oil if possible. Not in addition to butter or vegetable oils, but instead of them. When you make this switch, you're making a significant dietary change that has real protective effects. Food 6. Tomatoes. Tomatoes are remarkable. I want you to understand exactly why they matter for stroke prevention. Tomatoes contain something called lycopene. Lycopene is a carotenoid, a type of pigment that gives tomatoes their red color. And lycopene is a potent antioxidant. It's actually more powerful than beta-carotene or vitamin E. Here's what's special about lycopene for your cardiovascular system. It reduces inflammation. It helps prevent the oxidation of LDL cholesterol, which is crucial because oxidized LDL is what damages your artery walls. And it has mild blood-thinning properties. Now, here's something interesting. Lycopene is actually more bioavailable when tomatoes are cooked. So tomato sauce, tomato paste, cooked tomato soup, these are actually better sources of bioavailable lycopene than raw tomatoes. That said, raw tomatoes still have benefits, they just have slightly less available lycopene. If you have high blood pressure or you're concerned about sodium intake, be mindful of canned tomato products, which can be high in salt. Fresh tomatoes or low-sodium canned tomato products are better choices. But honestly, the benefits of tomatoes far outweigh any concern about moderate sodium intake if you're otherwise controlling your salt consumption. How much should you eat? A couple servings a week of tomato-based foods, whether that's fresh tomatoes in a salad, tomato sauce with pasta, or tomato soup, provides meaningful benefits. Some research suggests that people who consume higher amounts of tomatoes have lower cardiovascular disease risk and lower stroke risk. Food 7. Dark chocolate. Yes, you read that right. Dark chocolate. And before you think I'm just trying to make this fun, I want you to understand the science. Dark chocolate, specifically chocolate that's at least 70% cacao, contains flavonoids. These are a type of polyphenol, similar to what we've discussed in other foods. The darker the chocolate, the higher the flavonoid content. These flavonoids improve blood vessel function. They reduce inflammation. They help with blood pressure control. Some research suggests they have mild blood-thinning properties. One fascinating study followed people who consumed dark chocolate regularly and found measurable improvements in blood flow and blood vessel flexibility within just weeks. Now, here's the important part. We're not talking about eating an entire chocolate bar every day. We're talking about a small square or two of dark chocolate most days. That's roughly 30 grams, which contains maybe 150 calories. It's a small indulgence with real health benefits. And I will say this, if dark chocolate is going to help you stick with the other dietary changes we've discussed, if it's going to give you something enjoyable in your healthy eating pattern, then it's absolutely worth including. Because diet adherence is crucial. You can have the most perfect diet on paper, but if you can't stick with it, it does no good. Let me make sure you understand how all of these foods work together synergistically. It's not just that each one has individual benefits. The real power is in combining them. When you eat fatty fish, you're getting omega-3s that thin your blood slightly and reduce inflammation. When you eat leafy greens, you're getting nitrates that improve blood vessel function. When you eat berries, you're getting anthocyanins that are powerful antioxidants. When you eat nuts and seeds, you're getting additional polyphenols and healthy fats. When you use olive oil, you're getting more polyphenols and anti-inflammatory compounds. When you eat tomatoes, you're getting lycopene. When you eat dark chocolate, you're getting even more flavonoids. All of these compounds are working together to keep your arteries clean and flexible, to prevent dangerous blood clots from forming, to control inflammation, to manage blood pressure, to keep your blood flowing smoothly and efficiently through your brain. That's powerful. That's real. That's why the research is so clear. People who eat these foods regularly have substantially lower stroke risk. Now, I want to be honest with you. Food is hugely important, but it's not everything. There are other critical factors for stroke prevention that I need to mention. First, physical activity. Your cardiovascular system responds to exercise. Regular activity, and I'm talking about at least 150 minutes of moderate activity per week, or 75 minutes of vigorous activity, or a combination, is incredibly important. Your heart, your blood vessels, your entire cardiovascular system functions better when you're moving regularly. Second, blood pressure control. High blood pressure is the single biggest risk factor for stroke. If you know your blood pressure is elevated, work with your doctor to get it under control. Often, the dietary changes we've discussed will help with blood pressure, but sometimes medication is necessary. Third, managing other health conditions. If you have diabetes, if you have atrial fibrillation, if you have high cholesterol, all of these increase stroke risk. Work with your doctor on a comprehensive management plan. Fourth, not smoking. Smoking dramatically increases stroke risk. If you smoke, quitting is probably the single most important thing you can do for your health. Fifth, managing stress. Chronic stress elevates blood pressure and increases inflammation. Find ways to manage stress: meditation, yoga, spending time in nature, whatever works for you. Sixth, sleep. Poor sleep is associated with higher stroke risk. Aim for 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep per night. And seventh, moderation with alcohol. Some research suggests that moderate alcohol consumption might have cardiovascular benefits, but excessive alcohol increases stroke risk. If you drink, do so moderately. Let me give you some practical ways to implement this starting today. For fish, aim for at least 2 servings per week. That could be salmon on Monday night, some sardines in a salad on Thursday, some mackerel on Saturday. If you don't like fish, you could do fish oil supplements, but food is always preferable because you get other nutrients alongside the omega-3s. For berries, try to have them daily. Frozen berries are your friend. They're affordable. They last forever in your freezer, and they retain all their nutrients. A handful in your morning oatmeal or yogurt is perfect. For leafy greens, aim for at least 1 serving daily. That could be a salad at lunch, some sautéed spinach as a side dish, or greens in a smoothie. It's really flexible. For nuts and seeds, have a small handful most days. That's your snack. It's portable, it's satisfying, and it's incredibly healthy. For olive oil, use it as your primary cooking oil or drizzle it on finished dishes. You don't need much. A tablespoon or two daily is sufficient. For tomatoes, use them several times per week. Fresh in salads, in pasta sauce, in soup, there are endless options. For dark chocolate, have a small square or two with your coffee or tea, maybe 5 or 6 days per week. This isn't complicated. This isn't restrictive. You're not giving up the foods you love. You're simply adding these protective foods and these protective habits into your life. Common barriers and how to overcome them. I know that changing eating habits is hard. After 60 years of eating a certain way, change doesn't come easy. Let me address some common barriers. I don't like fish. I hear this all the time. Here's my suggestion. Start with milder fish. Salmon has a milder flavor than mackerel or sardines. Try it prepared simply, with lemon and herbs. If you really can't get into fish, use supplements and incorporate other foods from this list that you do like. These foods are expensive. Some are more expensive than others, but many are not. Frozen berries are often cheaper than fresh. Spinach and kale are inexpensive. Nuts are more expensive, but a little goes a long way. Olive oil is an investment, but it lasts a long time. Tomatoes are cheap, especially canned. Dark chocolate, if you're buying just a small amount, is inexpensive. I don't have time to cook. I understand. You're busy. Here's the truth. Most of these foods require minimal preparation. You can grill a piece of fish in 10 minutes. You can throw berries in your cereal or yogurt in 30 seconds. You can make a salad in 5 minutes. You can have a handful of nuts as a snack with zero preparation. Busy doesn't have to mean unhealthy. My family won't eat this stuff. Fair enough. But maybe you prepare these foods for yourself and your family eats what they eat. Or maybe your family tries these foods and ends up liking them. My experience is that when people understand the why, when they understand that they're eating these foods to stay healthy and vital, they become more willing to try them. I have food allergies or intolerances. Work with what you can eat. If you're allergic to fish, focus on the other foods. If you can't eat nuts, focus on seeds. If you're allergic to tomatoes, focus on the other foods. This list is not exclusive. These are 7 of the most powerful foods, but there are other good choices too. Asparagus, avocado, carrots, garlic, whole grains, all of these have cardiovascular benefits. How will you know if these changes are working? There are a few ways to measure. First, get your blood pressure checked regularly. If you're implementing these changes and you're being more active, you should see your blood pressure come down over time. That's a meaningful improvement. Second, get a blood panel. Your doctor can check your cholesterol and other lipid markers. Over time, these should improve. Third, notice how you feel. Do you have more energy? Are you thinking more clearly? Are your clothes fitting better? These subjective measures matter too. Fourth, understand that you're reducing your risk even if you don't see dramatic changes in lab values. Even if your numbers don't change dramatically, the protective effects of these foods are real. You're reducing inflammation. You're improving blood vessel function. You're preventing blood clots. You're protecting your brain. I've spent my career watching people make choices that either protect their health or undermine it. I've seen people suffer strokes that could have been prevented. I've also seen people make changes, dietary changes, exercise changes, stress management changes, and literally transform their health. You are not a passive bystander in your own health story. The choices you make matter. The food you put in your body matters. What you do today affects who you'll be 10 years from now. If you're over 60, I want you to be healthy. I want you to have the energy and the mental clarity to do the things you love. I want you to travel, to spend time with family, to enjoy life. And a lot of that depends on the health of your cardiovascular system, the health of your brain, and the prevention of stroke. The foods we've discussed today, fatty fish, berries, leafy greens, nuts and seeds, olive oil, tomatoes, and dark chocolate, these are not miracle cures. They're not going to make you immortal, but they are powerful, evidence-based tools that can significantly reduce your stroke risk. Start somewhere. Don't try to implement everything at once. Pick one or two of these foods that you already like or are willing to try. Add them to your diet this week. Then next week, add something else. Build these habits gradually. And if you have health conditions like diabetes, high blood pressure, or high cholesterol, work closely with your doctor. These dietary changes should be part of a comprehensive health plan, not a replacement for medical care. I believe in you. I believe that you can make changes that matter. And I believe that these changes, these simple dietary choices, can literally add years to your life and protect your brain. Thank you for watching. If this information has been helpful, please share it with someone you care about. And make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss future health videos. Your brain and your future self will thank you.